a video on 3 ingredient pasta. So I made a cheap supermarket spam pasta. So cheap supermarket spam, it's called luncheon meat, but spam really, or spam, or is spam luncheon meat? I don't know, but anyway, so cut down the costs. I bought the cheap supermarket spam type of stuff, fried it, and then fried some spaghetti in the fat that I cooked the spam in, let's just call it spam, and then added some cheap tin tomatoes and cooked it like the assassin's pasta, and then put back in the pork luncheon meat spam, and it was very nice. And I was kind of thinking, we can do it with other things. It's the same kind of principle, but with other ingredients. So obviously we're still going to use the tomatoes and we're going to use the spaghetti, but there's other things that we can use instead. Some things that we can cook into it and some things we can put onto it afterwards. So it's going to be a little bit long because I'm thinking on my feet as always. So when we're doing like an assassin's pasta, we fry the spaghetti or the pasta as a way of adding a depth of flavour to it. So if we were just to have tomatoes and spaghetti, and especially if we're using cheaper ingredients like cheap tin tomatoes and cheap spaghetti, there's not that much, there's less flavour to them, so we just have to work a little bit harder. So by frying the pasta and then hard frying when we add the tomatoes to the pasta and getting that caramelization in the sauce and on the pasta, we're adding a layer of flavour, which you do with more expensive ingredients in the same kind of way, but it's a way of adding like a depth of flavour. So we just kind of have to work a little bit more. So that was that. But then I was kind of thinking, there's other things that we can have around the house that we can use the same technique as frying the pasta and hard frying the sauce to get that caramelization and depth of flavour. We don't have to just use the spam or the luncheon meat. There are other things that we can have around the house that we can use the same kind of principle for. So frying them off beforehand, that type of thing. So that is, I've got some cheap, well, it's the scratchy bits and some cooking bacon. So like the end bits that are a bit fatty, we could use bacon instead of the spam. Fry it off beforehand, and that's the one I'm going to do today. So fry the bacon off, get it nice and crispy, then use that fat from the bacon to cook the spaghetti, make the sauce, that type of thing. And then we can also do the same with anchovies. So use the oil from the anchovies to fry the pasta in, and then add in the anchovies and break them up, and then add in the tomato sauce. Same kind of principle. Then if we're going to buy some, we've got some tuna, we've got it in sunflower oil or in olive oil, whichever you kind of got around the house. Not the stuff that's in brine, but something that's got the oil. Use the oil from the tuna to fry off the pasta. You kind of get the idea, and then stir in the tuna at the very end of the dish. Same with mackerel fillets. Mackerel fillets in sunflower oil. We can use the oil to fry that. Then we've got some, so a little bit of salami. Same principle again. Fry off the salami, then use the fat to do that. Any kind of slight salami or cured meat, so it would be particularly good with a chorizo or something like that as well. Get that extra fat that kind of comes out of it, and they would enrich the dish and make it taste better. Now, a little bit controversial, but I remember watching a Giorgio Lucatelli, and he was travelling around Italy with Andrew Graham Dixon Wright, the art historian, and they did a tomato. And Giorgio Lucatelli did a tomato sauce and put chicken skin and fat in it to enrich the sauce. So I have a bit of chicken skin, so we could do exactly the same with the chicken skin or chicken fat. Caramelize it up, get it crispy, render the fat out of it, and then use that fat to cook, fry the spaghetti, and then add the crispy chicken fat stroke skin back in at the very end, and it would add that extra depth of flavour to it as well. Now, the only thing you have to be careful of is that the chicken skin will have little feathery things on. So those little feather things, you've just got to make sure we remove those. But that chicken skin would be a good alternative to the bacon. So those are the meaty things that we could put in at the start. But then I was kind of thinking, well, there was things that we could put in at the end. So if we just had spaghetti and we just had tomatoes, we didn't have any of those meaty kind of products, what we could do is we could put things in at the end to add another layer of flavour. So, got these crispy fried onions. Stirring those in at the end of the cooking process would improve the flavour. That would be nice. And also kind of like, if we put them in at the end, they'll stay a little bit crunchy. They've got a little bit of umami kind of flavour to them. So that would improve the dish as well. Classically, some fried breadcrumbs. So fry the breadcrumbs in olive oil or lard or something like that. Stir breadcrumbs in at the end of the process as well. That would add another, and if they were nice and crispy, we get a little bit of crispiness and like another kind of interesting texture to improve the dish again. Now, this is the rind from the Parmesan or any hard cheese. What you do is you put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, a minute, and it puffs up like that. And we can then smash that so it turns into like a bit of a cheesy powder. Stirring that in at the end would be delicious as well. So it's kind of like goes like that, like honeycomb. It's delicious. Stirring that in at the end, once we've cooked the pasta in the tomato, that would work as well. And in the same way, pork scratchings. So these are pigskin, which are then crisped up and turned into pork scratchings, crackling, that type of thing. So those delicious porky goodness that they are, crushed up at the end, added to the pasta dish, would be delicious as well. So, bit of a long-winded start to the video, and the rest of the video is going to be me just kind of doing a short version of the bacon. So, but I want to faff around with doing some shorter videos. So I'll do a really short video, which will be under a minute. I'll come and do one shorts for the bacon pasta, and I kind of calculated it. So because it's cooking bacon, you can buy that for about £2 a kilo. The price has gone up. It used to be about £1.50, but the price has steadily kind of gone up. It's the offcuts from bigger cuts of bacon, which they repackage, and it's really good if you want to make like a bacon pie or something like that, or you want to make pea and ham soup. It's fine. It's just scratchy bits. So, but it's cheap. So I kind of worked out for, if we're going to use 100 grams worth of bacon, half a tin of tomatoes, which is 200 grams worth of tin tomatoes, and 100 grams worth of cheap pasta, that works out at 46 pence for a portion, which is really cheap. Certainly a lot cheaper than the Spam that I used. I worked that out at 93 pence a portion. So we're kind of cutting out 50 pence worth of food cost. But anyway, so that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking like. So all those things would work in some different form to improve a cheap pasta dish. Of course, Assassin's pasta there's some chili in there and there's some garlic, but in essence, all it really is tomatoes and pasta. But those are the things that you can kind of quite add. So that's that part of the video. The next part of the video will be me putting the dish together type of thing, and hopefully be under a minute. But anyway, so that's that. Cheap bacon pasta for 46 pence a portion. You will need 100 grams of cheap cooking bacon, 200 grams, that's half a tin, of cheap supermarket tomatoes, and 100 grams of cheap supermarket spaghetti. Fry your bacon in lard so it looks like that. Then fry your pasta in the lard so it looks like that. Add a tin of tomatoes and steam up the camera. Add the same amount of water. Season with salt and pepper, and then hard fry until it looks like this. Add back in your bacon, stir it around, and enjoy. Twiddle pasta around using a fork and a ladle to make it look fancy and a lot more expensive than it is. Grate on a little bit of cheese to make it even look even more fancy.